What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fluff Hammer. Today is going to be the Chaos Knight Abominant. I'm going to be going through a little bit of building, kind of a quick time lapse of the building, and then what sub assemblies I'm doing and what undercoat sprays I'm going to be using for each sub assembly. That will be today's video. There'll be a part 2 where I'm then going to go through washers, weathering, stuff like that, transfers, and then a stage 3 where it's going to be final highlights and armor panels, and then putting it all together. So I hope you enjoy the video. Look forward to the next part. See you all. Let's get into it. Okay, so first up, we are going to make a coffee. It's going to be a long day. It is a big kit. So let's get a coffee on the go, and then we will sit down and start some building. So here we are. Open up the box. These are all the Knight Abominant sprues. It does look like, I've never built a decimator before, but it looks like this kit is now multi-part, which would explain why all the Knight decimators are out of stock everywhere, because it will now become just a single kit where you can build either option. I'm going to follow pretty much most of the instructions as they come straight out of the box. So I'm going to start by assembling the legs. As you can see, I'm using a mix of tools here. I'm using a hobby blade or an X-Acto blade, depending on where you are in the world. I'm using the liquid Tamiya glue. I've got the Citadel mold line removal tool, a Citadel file, an army painter file, and some 1000 wet and dry paper. So I'm removing the largest of the flash with the hobby knife. If you do that, just be careful, because it's quite easy to nick yourself. And then I'm kind of removing all the fine mold lines with either the file, the wet and dry paper, the hobby mold line remover tool, and yeah, just going through the legs and then attaching the little ankle joints, and then straight onto the feet. Next up, we're going to be unclipping the tail section. Again, this is totally different to Knight Titans I've built before. I've built the Imperial ones years ago when they first came out. It feels like the kit's been out absolutely ages now, but this is quite, decipherably different when you get to all these little extras. But the main core, if you've built a Knight Titan, Imperial Knight Titan before, you will recognise a lot of the steps. As you can see here, I'm making sure and gluing this really nicely and using elastic bands to keep a nice tight pull together on them. And then basically I'm going to let that cure for a little while with the elastic bands on, and then I'm going to come back and use some modelling putty to seal the joins. A lot of these parts where you have two parts that have a seam down the middle, you do need to make sure and fill those joins. Next up, again, just following the instructions through, is going to be the hip and pelvis section, and that will be obviously where we join the lower half of the body to the upper half of the body. So here we go now with the AK modelling putty. I'm going to be using a combination of my hand and a paintbrush from the army painter, and sometimes I'll switch in and out with a little kind of rubber sculpting tool. And as you can see, I'm just putting this in the joins and then rubbing my finger over the top to smooth them out. And this is filling the joins in really nicely. There's a lot of these kind of centre seam lines on this model, and I'd like to get rid of as many of them as I can. I'm well aware a lot of these will now be covered by armour panels and stuff going forward, but I'd just like to make sure and get a lot of these joins filled up if I can. This AK stuff, I've got a video coming up soon, kind of how to use it a bit more in depth on cloak lines and stuff, so making cloak joins smooth. So I won't go into too much detail about how I'm using the AK today. But I will say it's absolutely brilliant stuff. It's the best stuff I've used for this kind of gap filling. It's also dry and sandable within about a minute, which is absolutely amazing, because with stuff like green stuff or mully putt, you're having to give it overnight to cure, and it just really delays these kind of projects if you want them done kind of neat and tidy. So yep, this is now the armour plating for the tail, and we're getting towards the kind of completion of the lower body here, using the file there to smooth out the largest gaps, and then going in with the finer file and the wet and dry. And as you can see, we've got like an almost seamless finish on those ball joints now, because they will be quite visible even with the armour panels on. Just making sure I'm getting them nice and smooth, because they are quite a focal point when you look at the armour, and because they'll be silver and shiny, they will stand out a lot, so I like them to be as smooth as possible. And we're now going to glue the legs on as well, and that will pretty much complete the lower assembly, apart from the little piston things that go through the groin. These were extremely fiddly, and like I said, I remember them from the previous kits, so the original kind of Imperial Night Titans do have them as well, but it was more fiddly than I wanted. Using just a little bit of Tamiya extra thin there to kind of dot in the joins underneath, as you can see, just to make it a bit more of a stronger join, and just using the hobby knife to move the piston around to make sure it's all locked in place. As per the instructions, I'm still going to be cutting out the armour panels as we go, but I will not be attaching these particular ones. Just having a look at fit there, just to make sure which side goes where and all the rest. But basically, I'm going to clean the parts up exactly as I was assuming I was going to glue them onto the model, but I'm going to clean them up and leave them totally separate. This will definitely be a much faster, more efficient way to paint the model, and it will also just make it a lot easier to not have to get in behind different pieces. Next up, we're into the upper hull assembly, and again, this part was relatively straightforward, but how the instructions tell you to assemble it, I don't actually think is the best way to assemble it. The bits where it says to kind of get this bottom panel here, which will attach to the top half to the bottom half via that ball joint. It then says to attach both the sides to that, and then try and cram these two things through the middle, which actually, in hindsight, I would have probably assembled one side, glued the two bits, which is like a pipe section and the back of the body. I'd have glued them in next and then completed it with the other side, because all I ended up doing was pushing out the two sides in a really uncomfortable manner to try and squeeze the other two bits in, and it also didn't make for the easiest way to get the glue in, and it didn't make for the best joins either. So this is the two bits here, so that is the kind of centre back, and also this piping section which goes up to the head. And as you can see, I'm having some difficulty getting it in and getting it lined up, and actually to get it in with glue on it is also a nightmare, so I'm having to try and get glue inside of that frame. And I think if I was to build it again now, I'd have done it the other way around. So here we are with pretty much the finished sub-assemblies. I've just got this whip arm to finish building, and I'm going to glue that on. So I've glued on the full gun as an assembly, the whole hull, the head. This plate I have glued on, although it's going to be a different colour, but I've got plenty of access to that. I'm then leaving this helmet separately to glue on, the top pack to go on separately, and unlike on the Imperial Night Titans, you can glue these on first, you cannot glue these on first and still get them through the top canopy, so they're going to have to go separate. And then absolutely every single armour panel is going to be separate as well. The middle front armour panel I'm going to spray directly black, because that's got absolutely no armor trim on it. And the loincloth is going to be sprayed red because I'm going to be painting it red. And then all the other armor panels, shoulders, shins, everything with armor trim on is going to be sprayed with a Retributor Gold. So I've hummed and hawed over this, and I feel like gold all round, and then washing it all, because I mean when you put it on, all of this in here is going to be gold, all of this under here is going to be gold, all of that in there can be gold. No one's going to see it, but it's just, you know, you could just gold it and then wash it and that'll be fine. And then you've only got this small bit of panel here to pick out with your actual colours. So yeah, gold. This shield I'm going to be doing black. The helmet I'm probably going to go with black because it's going to be more of a like a coppery colour, and then obviously I want the bones done as well, so that's going to be black. So these two bits are going to be sprayed black. This will be sprayed black as well. Actually, there's kind of not a huge amount of trim. There's more armour to black in than there would be trim to gold. So black for this, black. All of that is going to be gold, red for the tabard, and then the entire frame of the model, the entire thing, and the whip arm I'm going to glue in as well, will all be sprayed lead belcher, and these two top bits will be sprayed lead belcher as well. So there we are in the finished sub-assembly phase. Like I said, apart from that little whip arm I've got to do, but I just thought I'd do a video now while I had 5 minutes to show you all. So yeah, here he is, looking pretty beefy. You've got a choice of helmets, but I think this one is so iconic, isn't it? Like the one that we've all been shown at pre-release and stuff like that. I mean, look at that, sick, so good. So yeah, I'm gonna crack on with that, finish that whip arm off and get that all sprayed up, and I will see you in the next video. So look forward to that. That'll be part 2, and it'll be out as soon as I can get it done. So like I said, I'm off this week. I've had a bit of a routine up, feeling pretty tired now, so gonna have a bit of a rest, and then I'll get that next video done up and out as soon as possible. So today is release day for the Chaos Knight Titans. It is I think it's the 14th of March 2022, and like I said, I'll try and get part 2 and part 3 up in the coming week. Cool, thanks so much everyone. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. This episode of Fluff Hammer is sponsored by Black Tower Games, an exciting new game store located just outside of Norwich City Centre. They stock a wide range of board games, card games such as Magic of the Gathering, as well as a huge range of tabletop games like Star Wars Legion and of course Warhammer. They also have a massive range of acrylic paints from Citadel and brands like Vallejo as well. The web store is currently not active, but it will be up soon, so keep an eye out. They'll have 20% off all new releases for Games Workshop. Cheers guys.